Mr. Rowery, what got you to start a restaurant?
Well, I recently inherited some money from my aunt who unfortunately passed away.
And did you have any experience in restaurant?
No, I did not have any experience in the restaurant business.
Did you receive any assistance?
Yes, I asked my cousin Devin Taylor, and he suggested I hire Julian Blake, who had
Who's Julian Blake?
Julian Blake was a consultant that I hired that had experience in co-owning and owning restaurants and things like that.
Whose job was it to hire a chef?
That was my job.
What was Julian Blake doing?
Julian Blake, like I said, was I hired him so he could consult and for the remodeling of the business.
Why did you pick Lynn?
Well, I picked Lynn because she was a good cook. She spoke English well, and I felt like I could help her with her family things and things like that.
What agreement did you work out with Lynn Stark?
I told her the first month's pay, they were going to be rough, and we also agreed to her being able to live in the upstairs apartment above the restaurant, and she could eat whatever she wanted.
And did she agree with these?
Yes, she did.
What was the working relationship with her?
I think it was good, a good working relationship.
How did things go after opening the restaurant?
Well, after opening the restaurant, business was kind of slow, and Lynn was also a very slow worker. I would often have to remind her to start working faster and things like that.
And why didn't you hire any more staff to help her out?
Well, because I didn't have enough funds to hire an expert chef.
You never forbidden her to leave the restaurant, right?
No, I did not.
And how did you treat Lynn during this period of time?
Well, like I said, she was a very slow worker, or would often take a lot of breaks. So I'd always have to remind her to start working.
Was Julian helping you out in this case, in this issue?
No, he didn't.
Why did Lynn's pay drop in January and February?
Business was slow, not enough customers.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Prosecution like to cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please.
Hello.
Hello.
Now, you got a few replies for that ad you put out, right?
Yes, I did.
But you chose the unexperienced immigrant worker, right?
Yeah.
Now, while I was reading the story, everything seemed pretty normal. You called Lynn Stark before hiring her, right?
Yes, I did.
You set up an interview.
Mm-hmm.
You interviewed her.
Yes, I did.
At the end of this interview, you asked her if anyone would miss her if she was gone.
Yes, I might have.
Now, the rest of this interview seems pretty cool. You gave her a cooking simulation.
Mm-hmm.
You got her paperwork for employment purposes. If I may ask, when did she receive those back?
I don't think I ever gave back to her. It's because she never asked.
She never asked for them?
No.
She didn't ask for them on March 9th, 2016.
No, not that I remember.
She didn't come to you about her dying sister and ask for time off and for her papers.
She asked for time off, but not about a dying sister. She never told me about that.
Okay. Now, you hired her November 2nd.
Yes.
That's the day you took her papers.
Yes.
She was not employed there anymore in March, correct?
Yes.
Now, did you ever threaten to have Lynn deported?
Not that I remember.
No, not at all. Now, you told the officer that everything under that roof is yours, right?
Right. I was frustrated.
Now, if I remember correctly, Lynn lives right under that roof, right?
She lives above the restaurant.
But below that roof.
I guess, yeah.
And not by choice either. That was a requirement for your employment, right?
Yeah. She also agreed.
Now, you hired Julian Blake as a consultant, right?
Yes, I did.
Now, how much of his advice did you actually take?
Not that much.
But you stated you were unexperienced.
Yeah.
And Julian Blake was experienced.
Yes, it was.
Yet you ignored everything he told you.
Some things, yeah.
Okay. Now, you had more than one server at this restaurant, right?
Yes,
The only one cook, right?
that is correct.
No more further questions, Joe.
Thank you. At this point in time.
Your Honor, I'd like to call Frankie Lyman to the stand, please.
Witness, please come forward and be admonished.
Please state your name for the court.
Frankie Lyman.
And when did you start working at the Taste of Tantera?
I started working there on November 22nd. November 2nd.
And how did you find out about the job opening?
I saw it post on campus and I applied for the job.
And what kind of work do you do, Ms. Lyman?
At first, I ran errands like find food, vegetables, meat, all that. When the restaurant opened, I cleaned tables and sometimes did a little bit of food.
Okay. And did you enjoy working there?
Yeah, the customers seemed to really enjoy the food and they were really nice.
How would you describe Mr. Aubrey as a boss?
I'll say he was strict but fair. If I did something he didn't like, he will give me constructive feedback.
And how was he towards you and the other employees?
He tried to make a personal connection with each and all of us. He knew about my friends, family, school, hobbies, and all that.
And what about towards Miss Stark?
Anyone who worked at the restaurant will tell you that he was really nice to her. He would treat her more like a family member and not like an employee.
Could you explain more on that?
Well, he tried to cover many of her expenses, like letting her live rent-free, and she could eat as much food as she wanted.
Right. And how did you get to know him?
When business was low, we talk about our personal lives.
And did you ever get to see her apartment?
Yes. One day we went up to, she wanted to show me some pictures of her family.
And how did the apartment look?
It wasn't luxurious, but it seemed comfortable enough.
And as the restaurant got, no, sorry, I'm gonna go back on this. How was it under her working conditions?
At first she was really good, but I will always see her some with orders, and she was really slow, and her anxiety sometimes prevented her from working faster.
And as the restaurant got busier, how did things change?
Cameron became more stressed, and he will sometimes yell at employees and slam doors.
And how did you feel about him yelling and slamming doors?
I knew he was just blowing up steam, so I didn't mind at all.
And what happened in early March?
When I went to the restaurant, I saw Cameron walking out of the apartment.
When she asked you,
Excuse me?
when she asked you, that's the one where she asked you if she would get fired.
Lynn told me that she was scared that her visa might expire and that she might get fired.
And did you believe that he would ever fire her?
No, I told her that she was the best cook at Santa Fe.
Okay. And when Mr. Aubrey was arrested, how did you feel about that?
Can you repeat the question?
When Mr. Aubrey was arrested, how did you feel about that?
I was completely in shock. In my time working there, I never suspected that he was mistreating me.
Okay. And why were you shocked overall?
Well, he was always working. He never took a break or a day off, and he was always telling us to do our best.
Okay. And would you say that Cameron was a hard worker then?
Yes, totally.
Can you explain more?
He gave 100% of himself, and he wanted the restaurant to be successful, so he was always there.
Okay. No more further questions.
During the course of your employment, you saw Cameron snap at the employees, correct?
Yes.
Even yell at them, slam
That's
doors.
Yes.
But you never had a reason to feel scared or intimidated, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
You are an immigrant, and you can quit anytime.
That's right.
And you were only a part-time employee, right?
Right.
Lynn was also afraid of losing her job and her visa might expire, is that correct?
Yes.
And didn't she seem desperate to you?
Yes.
On March 9th, you saw Cameron leave Lynn's apartment. Is that correct?
Yes,
And he said he was going to fix the faucet,
that's right.
but he didn't have anything in his hands.
No.
No tools, no fixing equipment. On March 10th, you saw Cameron open a double cylinder door, correct?
Yes,
And that door was always supposed to remain open.
correct.
You never seen the door closed before.
No.
And you heard him say something to Lynn about a key.
Yes.
And Lynn looked angry after that? Did she seem
Yeah,
upset?
she was upset.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. At this
State your name for the court, please.
Devin Tyler.
Mr. Tyler, what's your occupation?
I am a hotel manager at Boutique Hotel.
And what's your relation to Cameron Aubrey?
Him and I are cousins, and I've known him since children.
Did you have a role in providing assistance to Cameron Aubrey in opening the restaurant?
Repeat the question.
Did you have a role in providing assistance to Cameron Aubrey when opening the restaurant?
Yes, I offered him advice.
Is that all you assisted him with?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know who Lynn Stark is?
Yeah, she's the chef at Taste of Terra.
And why did Cameron hire her to be the chef?
I believe Cameron wanted to help her out with her family.
What do you think about Lynn's qualifications?
She had no experience prior to this.
And were you concerned about this?
Yes, I was.
Did you mention this to Cameron?
I did.
What was his response? What was his response?
He seemed very adamant about helping her for her family.
And when the restaurant, before the restaurant opened, how would you describe the initial relationship between Cameron and Lynn?
About a month before the opening of the restaurant, they seemed to really connect. They would talk about the menu, they would laugh and dream about the future of the restaurant.
And what was the relationship like after the restaurant opened?
Afterwards, the relationship seemed strained.
Are you aware of why it became strained?
He told me that Lynn became very slow when it got time to it.
And no, Cameron's been accused of exploiting and abusing Lynn for her employment. Is that what you witnessed when you were at Taste of Terra?
Quite the opposite, actually.
How so?
Cameron, he was generous. He would pay for her expenses. Gave her a room. It seemed like what he was focused on was having Lynn sort of pay or be able to send as much money to Tantera as possible.
No, were you aware of how much Lynn was paid?
Yes.
And was Cameron purposely exploiting Lynn on her wages?
No, I don't believe so. Not purposely.
And as far as you know, was Cameron working at the restaurant?
Cameron was working at the restaurant.
Do you know how often or how long?
Just as much as Lynn.
And based on what you observed and how well you know Cameron, do you think he's capable of engaging in human trafficking?
I honestly believe he's a hard-working man, and deep down inside he has a good heart.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Tyler, you were the person who recommended Julian Blake, is that correct?
Yes.
And he was experienced, successful?
I'm not sure. I would say yeah.
It's fair to say Cameron didn't really take Julian's advice, is that correct?
Not always.
Even though Julian had experience and Cameron didn't at all.
Right.
The restaurant failed as soon as Julian left in late December, right?
Hmm?
That's when everything started going downhill.
Yes.
You told Cameron to contact an immigration attorney regarding Lynn's paperwork, is that correct?
Hmm?
And as far as you know, Cameron never did he?
Not that I know.
Even after 4 months, he never contracted an attorney?
Nope.
You're Cameron's cousin, correct?
Yes.
You've known each other since you were kids?
Yes.
Even traveled to Tintera together as kids.
Mhm.
It's safe to say you guys are pretty close, is that correct?
Yes.
You wouldn't want to see him go to jail, correct?
I'm not a fan of perjury.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. At this point in time, we'd ask for